But one of the reasons why I find this interesting as something that's perhaps defining about our age is that I don't know if you've gone to US airports lately, and by lately I mean like since what, 2001? But basically it's constantly at orange alert, so at high. Apparently the rest of the country is at yellow alert, apparently. But the thing is that in airports it's always orange alert. So I find orange as a really interesting thing because it's on the threshold between red and yellow. There's this idea that it could switch over at any moment. So here's also a Transportation Security Administration found poem called Notice of Baggage Inspection. To protect you and your fellow passengers, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, is required by law to inspect all checked baggage. As part of this process, some bags are opened and physically inspected. Oftentimes when I go to readings in the US, I open up my luggage and I find this. Your bag was among those selected for physical inspection. During the inspection, your bag and its contents may have been searched for prohibited items. At the completion of the inspection, the contents were returned to your bag. If the TSA screener was unable to open your bag for inspection because it was locked, the screener may have been forced to break open the locks on your bag. TSA sincerely regrets having to do this. However, TSA is not liable for damage to your locks resulting from this necessary security precaution. For packing tips and suggestions on how to secure your baggage during your next trip, please visit www.tsa.gov. So this is from the voice of a border guard. Your documents, please. Please present your documents. The temptation to not present documentation will be disturbing to me and my superiors. My superiors are embroiled in a way in which, to be realistic, you must have documented all that makes you memorable to yourself. We know now, for example, that simply killing those we fear does not prevent them from kindling amongst themselves. Certain ideals may be confused with inflammatory gestures. A number of illusions have appeared since we have begun demanding documentation. The exact nature of these illusions is being investigated. Were we to require a background check, we would request that you provide proof of address, date and time of coming of age, length of throat, record of imitation, record of living alone, etc. This portrait of you tells us the most exact location of timeless discomfort, but we need to fill in the details. We expect that aesthetic practices will likely continue, whether or not they have the will to redeem. Now, there may be someone outside that several men are rushing to meet, but in the meantime, please hand me your documentation. Okay, so one of the things that okay, so imagine a whole mass of chorus on the stage, and they're all, it's dimly lit, and it's just beyond your field of vision. And amongst them, you hear, God, it's amazing. At least the park is green. Outside, there are bikers racing down. Sure, I'd love to dance. How do I look? 700 billion. Do you remember that sweater I had? Torn to 3 clay pots and perfect for old relatives, aren't they? Complain, complain, complain. But for the financial industry, not homeowners. After all, they don't have the right to some little, don't they have the right to some little fun? Forget it. Sorry, what direction? Don't they have natural enough? Someone tell me what I'm seeing. Okay, now you'll notice in the back cover of the book, there's the bird. A bird is after is the idea of the canary in the coal mine. So basically, what exactly is the small thing that we send out as if it were a probe or something like that in order to scope out warning signs? Because after all, canaries have very small lungs, and when miners brought them down in there to test for carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and methane, then the birds would get overwhelmed before would get overwhelmed quickly, and then the miners knew that something was wrong. So one of the things that the poems aim for is miniature canaries, in a sense. Okay, so here's a citizen's view. I saw my bird grow old. Light scattered across the grass, where the bird's thoughts went untended. the direction we've come from was streaming with moths. Away from no source, ash comes wildly towards you. I'm drawn to a very old party. My bird escorts me there, but now it stays perfectly still, as if it were a dried plant, maybe more. The head of the bird is still with me, and should anything happen, it will cry in alarm. And this is, there was actually I was supposed to be doing a reading in during the Olympics, and Center A was in on it, the Go Gallery was in on it, and I don't know if you know the Instant Coffee Collective, but basically the Instant Coffee Collective is an art collective, and I was supposed to be doing a reading with them, but my collaborators and I couldn't get our act together. So then what I decided to do instead was to turn their final event into a video. Is the light on? Huh? Okay, now, actually on the back of one of your papers, there was a cross out.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, I mean, recycled paper. Oh. But I thought it was, because I thought like, wow, that looks exactly like the proofs for my book. And this was the poem that, looked uncannily like the scrap paper. But anyway, so here it's called Dear Uncitizen. So this is addressed to an uncitizen. You have been given things to love. Perhaps you wait for the public. You give not the anthem nor the flag, but the lullaby in a cage, an appeal to the hand that feeds you. The days leading up, you drive alone. Break open daily life. The call on the last night of your visit. Fall into anyone's hands. Has missed the point. So guarded. The country briefly concluded. We have seen you once.